All right. So, a quick recap of what we had done till now. Uh, we have discussed what's a firewall, नहीं आ रही. Please confirm if
आवाज आ
you're
रही है.
able to see my screen.
Yes, yes, it's visible.
Okay, can you confirm if you're able to see? I'm just writing on the screen. Are you able to see that?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So we discussed VMs versus hardware. Uh, then there was a concept of hardware acceleration as well that we discussed. We discussed what is NGFW. Uh, we discussed NP versus CP till now. All right, so we're going to proceed further. We'll try to keep the sessions a little short and not to try to indulge in many things at a time because we did lose uh, very much time last time to make some of the things work, and then yeah, was sort of a failed activity at that time. Now let's try to discuss today modes of operation first, right? When we say modes of operation, it means when you're deploying the FortiGate in the network, right? And when do you deploy the FortiGate in the network? They're going to give you this box, right? You connect it with your PC for the initial configuration, right? The moment you connect it with your PC using a console cable, or you connect the Ethernet with the management port MGMD or its port 1, which has an IP address of 192.168.1.99/24. Making sure that this adapter also falls in the same subnet, you can access the GUI for the reason that this particular management interface or port 1 has ping, HTTPS, SSH enabled, right? So you can access this particular FortiGate and then you can do the configurations, which are the initial configurations. And there are four aspects of configurations that you do, which are part of the uh, initial configuration. The first one is you will always make sure that your FortiGate has a DNS, right? And the next thing is you also want to make sure that you have static routing in place, or even if you are using the dynamic routing, you have the routing in place. The third thing is you are configuring the interfaces.
Mhm.
And the fourth thing is you have the policies in place. Now, what's the purpose of this, right? The whole important point here is that DNS is something that's actually going to help you translate the host names into the IP addresses. So anything that's behind the firewall, if for some reason your interface to which that particular device was connected, for example, if I come here and I say that this FortiGate was actually connected to one of the PCs, it's a switch over here, and then to the switch you have one of the PCs connected, and then you say this interface is actually acting as a DHCP server, right? That means all the information that is related to the IP configuration for this PC is retrieved from this interface only, right? And in terms of DNS, you need to make sure that this particular interface is also able to give the DNS to this particular PC. And that's the reason you should have a DNS configured on the FortiGate so that it can hand over the same DNS to that particular PC. There are ways that you can change that. You can specify different DNS as well. And then it actually goes back to the concept of recursion and iteration, right? So this is the whole purpose of DNS, that anything that's behind the FortiGate would need the DNS at some point to help the resolution. The host name resolution, right? So at that time, whatever the DNS is configured on the FortiGate is something that would be used by those PCs as long as uh, those PCs get the IP configuration from the FortiGate itself. And how does it do that? It only does that when you have those interfaces to which these devices are connected acting as the DHCP servers, right? So this is the first use case of this. We're going to see this as well. The second one is static routing. Why do we say static routing? Because we know that this FortiGate always, or any of the firewalls in general, always acts as a full-blown router, right? And for that reason, if it's a full-blown router, it means you need to have the routing in place, right? I need to tell it that, okay, if you want to go to the internet, this is your next stop, right? I can demonstrate quickly here. If this is my FortiGate, right? It's a switch over here, and then you have a PC over here, right? Now this FortiGate is actually helping you to connect with the internet, right? You need to tell it that, okay, if you want to go to 0.0.0/0, you always can go to this particular gateway, and this is your leaving interface, right? So that is the whole purpose of static routing. And on top of that, the interfaces need to be configured according to the requirement, like whatever the subnets are behind the FortiGate, right? Whichever the subnet that this guy actually falls in, you need to have a specific gateway for this. So this interface is actually acting as a gateway for this PC. So you'll have to configure this interface according to that only, right? That is the point of interface configurations. And then when we say policies, you need to have the policies. By the way, this is the set of basic configuration that would always need to be there on the FortiGate to make it work. This is a minimum configuration that you need to have to make it work, right? So the policies are there for the reason that your FortiGate won't allow anything unless and until you tell it. So you are writing the statements, which are nothing but the access control statements, right? Making sure that anything that you want to allow through this FortiGate has a correct or responsible policy to carry that particular traffic through this, right? So this was the whole point of discussion. Now the point is, once you're done with this configuration, you just somebody came, he gave you the FortiGate, right? Um, told you that you sort of need to do the initial configuration on this. You connect with your PC and then did all these four things, right? Let's try to check first how does it actually make sense over here. I'll try to quickly make one lab here. Hope I have one. There is some garbage configuration on this that we have done in our last lab. So just try to get rid of that so that there are no conflicts. And we'll try to make this setup work based on the initial configuration. So it's like a brand new FortiGate now. I just wiped the existing configuration on this one. Now the point here is that when I am taking the console, the first thing that I do here is this is the default username, and it's going to prompt me the password for the very first time. Now that I'm dealing with this for the very first time, so there is no password, so I hit enter, and then it forces me to put a new password. So I, for the sake of simplicity, I keep it 123, right? Now, just to make sure that the licensing doesn't come into conflict, uh, because it's a VM, it's running on the evaluation license. For that reason, I'm going to disable the NTP so that it's not able to talk to the FortiGate servers and then try to fetch the license and eventually deem the license as expired. So I'll do config system NTP, and then I want to check the current configuration there. I do show. So it says set NTP sync enable. I'll just change it to disable. And then likewise, I'll just set server mode disable as well so that none of the interfaces or even this FortiGate acts as an NTP server for anything. I click on end. Now, if I want to check the stats, the current licensing stats, I do get system status. You can check here the license stats is still valid. Now, what I'm going to do here is I will just turn this off and get the internet now. So my username is admin, my password is 123. Now, if I want to check what is the current IP address that I actually received on port 1 for the reason that port 1 acts as a DHCP client, right? I do diag IP address list. And how does this particular IP address, how does this port gets the IP address here? We have discussed that in our previous class, and how I'm going to access it as well. Uh, that part is also discussed in our recent class. So I want to check what is the current configuration on the port 1. So if I do here config system interface and then edit port 1, I want to check it. So I do show. So this is the current configuration. So it's acting as it's part of the root window. What does that basically mean? We're going to see that real very shortly. And then it says it's currently on DHCP, which means that it's acting as a DHCP client. So anybody who is able to provide him the DHCP uh, configuration or help him with the DHCP handshake, then it's going to get the IP address from that particular server. And then if you want to check what are the current protocols that are allowed on this one, we can see ping, HTTPS, SSH, HTTP, FGFM is something that we'll discuss in future. And then it's a physical interface. SNMP index is for, here for the reason that if you want to at some point monitor this via any monitoring tool. So there are a lot of SNMP servers out there, for example, Zabbix, PRTG, or NetFlow, or uh, SolarWind. So there are a lot of them. So we're not dealing with that for now. Now, what I'm going to do is I'll just get this IP address here. And I'm going to paste this in browser. And on the front, this is admin. So this is the FortiGate GUI that we're seeing for the first time, right? I'll click on OK. So this is the complete dashboard. A lot of things here. Now for me, there are four things that we said, which are part of the initial configuration. The first thing that we're actually going to take care about is DNS. The next thing is static routing, and then interfaces, and then policies, right? If I come here, I want to do all these things one by one. But before that, let me explain one more thing to you. So if I come here, by the way, you can open the console from here as well now from GUI. So it takes me to the same console that I was just opening via the putty. So if I want to review the configuration of port 1, I do config system interface. I say it port 1, and then I do show. You could see that there are four protocols which are allowed on this port, right? The first one is ping. Am I able to ping it? Let me check. The IP address that I actually received on port 1 is 136. And how do I get to know that? I do diag IP address list. This is the port 1 here, which says device name port 1. It means the physical device, physical port, and this is the IP address. I'm going to get this and try to check if the administrative access, which is actually the protocols that you're allowing on the interfaces. So I'll come here and try to ping it. So it's working, right? Now the point is, if I also want to sort of do SSH on this interface, I should be able to do that, right? And we can check that as well. If I open the putty and then come here, I'm gonna paste the same thing here, and then I try to open accept admin 1 1 2 3. So this is the FortiGate that I'm able to open from the putty for the reason that SSH is enabled on this particular interface, which has the IP address of 192.168.85.136. And from the point of HTTP, we just typed here HTTP, and that's the reason you see not secure
Not
here.
sure.
Now,
Mhm.
yeah, I want to try HTTPS as well because that's also allowed on this one, right? It doesn't work. It says the connection was reset, right? Connection refused. Now the point here is why would it not work, right? So for your information, we're dealing with the VMs, not actually the VM, we're dealing with the FortiGates, which are running on evaluation license. So the node that is in my lab here, it is not a firewall which is licensed. It has no contract with Fortinet at the moment. I'm just trying to plug and play it in the lab to replicate the scenarios. There are a lot of features that are supported in lab, and there are a lot of features that are not supported. So it's some sort of a demo that they provide you to help you with the navigation and get hands dirty on the product. And that's the reason I'm able to launch it in the lab. And it doesn't actually support, or it doesn't let you to get hold of all the features. So that is the reason HTTPS won't work here, right? Had it been the actual FortiGate which is running all the contracts and all, or even if it's a hardware box, the HTTPS would definitely work there, right? So this is a limitation from the evaluation point of view. So if I come here, I can quickly show you. If I come here, and this is basically the notification bar here, which tells you that VM evaluation license expires on 13th of July, right? Anyway, so uh, you get 15 days of license. So it's like this node is actually going to run for like 15 days, and after 15 days, you'll have to do everything from the scratch, right? It means whichever the configuration that's present on this one, it's going to ask you to license this firewall with the FortiGate to get all the contracts, and then only you can sort of continue using it, right? Now we will not do that. We're not going to pay any money to the Fortinet at this point because that's not needed for the reason that we can still replicate a lot of things and cover each and everything possibly to make sure that we're good with the product, and then uh, you'll always see the licensed firewalls in the production, and then you can sort of use this knowledge to build the networks and do the configurations on this product whenever you're dealing with this in the production, right? So how you deal with this now after the 15 days have gone, there are ways we can take backup and restore that one as well, right? So we're going to keep that for second part. Now let me come back to the configuration. So this is the FortiGate. I'm able to see the GUI here. The first thing is we're going to configure the DNS. So what I'm gonna do here is I'll come to system. I come to DNS. Now I could see there are two DNSs configured for now here, the primary DNS server and the secondary DNS server. And for your information, these two are actually coming from the FortiGuard itself, right? I will specify, I'll keep the first one here. So the one that you are actually seeing here, let me just come back here. This is from FortiGuard, right? We know that it's NGFW firewall and we're expecting it to always stay in contact in real-time communication with the FDN, which is a threat intelligence center, to receive all the uh, IPS signatures, um, the app control signatures on every sort of DB that it's actually utilizing to do the signature based detection, right? Signature based detection. And for that reason, it's always in communication with the FortiGuard, which is FDN. And the general term for this is Threat Intelligence Center. It's a threat intelligence center which sort of acts as a central feed to feed this FortiGate with all the DBs, be it the IPS signatures or app control signatures or anything like that, right? We're going to see that as well. Now the point here is it's in contact with this, and it also expects that this particular guy will help me resolve the DNS as well. It's like the way Google has the DNS server 8.8.8.8, and then the other one is from Cloudflare. It's 1.1.1.1. There are some of them from the Cisco as well, 208.67.220.220, or the other one is 67.222.222, right? These are the famous ones people actually love to use. So what I'm gonna do is I will come here and I will just say that okay, I can keep it 1.1.1.1 and the other one is 8.8.8.8, right? I'm okay with DNS with UDP53. I don't want to do TLS for DNS, DNS for TLS, right? Or I don't want to use the HTTP for the DNS, right? So I'll click on apply, and these two are going to act as DNS servers for me now. Now the point is, what is the next one? So the next one as per this one was static routing, right? I want to go to internet, right? I will come here. I don't see any static router here now. So what I'm going to do here is I will put 0.0.0.0 slash 0, right? And then the gateway should be 192.168.85.2, right? We already discussed why would the gateway act as .2, because I'm in the VMware atmosphere, and for me to talk to the internet, there is let me open this one. Yeah, for this particular guy to talk to the internet, it's actually talking to this management cloud 0, which is nothing but a bridge, right? And anything that needs to go to internet has to talk to .2. So this guy has IP address 192.168.85.136. Its gateway would always be .2, and this .2 is actually nothing but VMnet 8, right? And then this is actually bridged with my physical adapter, right? And then it goes to the internet basically. There's a NAT happening here. So this is how it actually happens, right? And what this VMNet actually comes from is when I install the VMware on the PC, right? This has already been discussed already. So I will clear my screen and close this and then come here. Now, this is the gateway. The leaving interface is port 1, and then the admin distance is 10. This is the default admin distance that your FortiGate actually keeps. Now, whenever I try to put the static routes on the FortiGate, there is one beautiful concept that I actually imagine. I would always sort of imagine myself that if people tell me that, okay, put a route on the FortiGate for the reason that you want to go to the internet, what I'm going to do is I say that, okay, if this is the FortiGate, I imagine always myself within the box, right? I will say that Nasir is actually here, right? And someone is just trying me that there's a network admin who tells me that, okay, you being an L1 guy or L2 guy, put a route here, right? And the route has to be meant for internet. And when I know internet, it means it can be any of the subnets. So for me, the first idea is that it has to be 0.0.0.0/0, right? So I'm gonna kick here. I'm gonna put here uh, my destination. There are three things which are important. Why do I need to go, right? What is the subnet mask of that? Which is the next hop, which is nothing but the gateway, which is important for me. And the third thing is what is the leaving interface, right? So now it becomes a little easy. The destination that they're actually telling me is 0.0.0.0/0. The next hop that they tell me they're always going to give you, and for us in the lab, it's 192.168.85.2. And the leaving interface for me, which is helping me to connect with this next hop, is port 1, right? So these are the three things. Now, had it been a different case, like if they tell you that, okay, you want to go to a different subnet, it's not internet anymore, it's a subnet which is 208.67.220.220, right? And the subnet mask for this is /32, right? The next hop is, again, since this is a public IP address, you are able to get it on the internet. Now, the next hop will be 192.168.85.2. And the leaving interface is again something that's helping me connect with the internet, which is the WAN interface of this FortiGate, right? So a similar concept here. I'll come back here and put this. Now the point is what happens? Why is the admin distance 1? What is the administrative distance, by the way, guys? Anyone?
It gives the reliability of a protocol.
Okay.
When there are
Now,
multiple protocols, then the
mhm,
lowest priority wins.
okay. Anyone else? Let's try to discuss first thing on this routing part, and then we'll jump on configuring a static route. But let's do it. Let's do it real quick. It's a router, right? It's receiving a packet. How is it going to do the route lookup? And when I say router, it means it's also FortiGate as well, because FortiGate or any firewall is a full-blown router, right? You can only restrict the traffic because there is this implicit deny policy within, which is existing and not letting traffic going from one interface to other, which is the only added layer. Otherwise, it's a router, right? So how does it do the route lookup? Anyone? Yeah. All right. Whenever FortiGate or router receives a packet, the first thing is it has to do route lookup, and route lookup is done based on the destination address. So I'm always going to focus on destination address, sorry, right? The first thing is highest prefix match. So in my static or in my routing table, whichever is the prefix, there are a lot of prefixes out there. There are a lot of entries, which are basically called routing table entries. And for every entry, there's an index associated with, right? We're going to see that as well. I'm going to see that, okay, based on the AND operation, which is giving me the highest result, right? So converting the routing table entry into the binary, and then also converting my destination address into binary, then do the AND operation of these two and then see which is giving me the highest result. That will be the highest prefix match. If there is a highest prefix match, anyone, you're going to prefer that one. Now let's assume that there are two entries which are actually giving the same result for the highest prefix match. What will happen? Then the tie is actually broken down by the administrative distance, right? What is administrative distance? It's nothing but the believability
Trustworthiness.
or reliability of a route, right? It's helping you with preference of a route, right? Lower, the better, right? The more low it is, the better the route is. What is the AD for connected route?
0.
Hmm?
0. 0.
Zero. What is it for the static route?
1.
1.
Right? And then there are dynamic routing protocols as well, where you basically can have different admin distances, right? Now the
Yes.
point here is, if I'm talking about the, I mean, these are the values for the Cisco, right? Had it
Right.
been the Cisco router, the moment you put a static route here, be it a default route, admin distance should have been 1, but here it is 10, and that's something that's vendor specific. So FortiGate actually starts with 10. What are the rest of the values used for? We're going to see that in future. There is one topic coming at SD-WAN. We're going to see how FortiGate keeps one for a different purpose, right? So here it's
Right.
10. Now the point is, I got multiple highest prefix matches. There are prefix matches which are very equal to each other, right? As far as the end result is concerned. And then when you also talk about the admin distance, you sort of wanted to break the tie with the help of AD, but then you thought that okay, the admin distance also here is same. So who is going to break the tie? It's the priority now, right? Now priority is in terms of static routing. You might not see this in case of Cisco or maybe the Cisco routers. You don't put the priority. You generally have this AD, which is sort of helping you with differentiating the things. But in case of FortiGate, you do have it, right? And if we are not talking about the static routing, let's say that we're just considering the case of the dynamic routing, then you won't have priority. You'll have the metrics, right? So when highest prefix match same comes same, then you talk about the admin distance. If that's also same, then you talk about the priority in case of static routing, or if it's dynamic routing, then you'll always ponder on the metrics, right? So that is the same thing here. So I'm going to come back here now. I'll keep it as it is. It gave me the default 10. I will say that, okay, I'm okay with this now. Now, if I click on the advanced options, this is the priority. So priority is going to break the tie when there are multiple routes which are having the same highest prefix match and same AD, right? Now, I wanted to go to the internet. I was just imagining myself that I'm within the box, right? For me, the next one that I can basically shake my hand with is 192.168.85.2, and for me the interface that I'm actually connect with this guy, which is .82 dot 2, right? It's port 1. I can just quickly see it from here, right? So I'll click on OK. This is the static route now, right? So my FortiGate has DNS. My FortiGate has what? It has static route as well. Now the next point is, I want to check the interface configuration, right? Interface config, when I see this my network, it's a very basic and simple network. From the perspective, we want to see, okay, we're going to start from very simple and then get to the hardest levels. For me, I could say that port 1 is already configured because I just had to plug the external router, which is actually this one, and by default this one is already acting as DHCP client. It got the IP address. There is nothing else that I want to do here, right? Now the point is, what is with the port 2? I want to configure the port 2 as well, right? So I'll come here. I click on port 2 now, right? I say that this is my LAN interface. So alias is there to increase the readability of an interface. It's actually going to help you with the purpose, right? I'll say that this is my LAN interface, right? And then I want to assign this manual IP address over here. I keep it 192 168 10.1/24. All right. So you might be seeing a lot of things as well. There is this VRFID, right? It's called virtual routing and forwarding. It's like having multiple instances of routing table, and the default one here is VRFID 0, right? It's like a single router can have multiple routing table databases. You use that, it actually has a use case, and where it's basically used, we might see that in future. Not promising, but yeah, if it comes up, we're going to see that, and if it doesn't come up, we will not see that, right? So VRF is having that, okay, this route, this FortiGate is also acting as a router, and then we can basically segregate the routing tables based on whatever is our requirement, right? For me, I don't want to touch it for now. I'll keep it as it is. The role is LAN, right? And then how you want to assign the address, I'm going to keep it as manual, and then that's the reason I kept this IP address over here, right? Not getting into too many details, you could see that you can create an object as well for this. If I do it, it's going to create this address object, and later on I'm going to call this address object in the policies, right? And then do you want to keep a secondary IP address for this port? For now, I say that I do not have any need. And for your information, on FortiGate, you can have interfaces with two IP addresses at least, the primary one and the secondary one, right? Now, talking from the administrative point of view, administrative access, I want to allow HTTPS, I want to allow ping, SSH, right? FGM, FMG access is something that I don't need now. FTM, SNMP, radius accounting, security connection fabric. I don't need all of these. Now, do you want to receive LLDP and transmit LLDP? What is the use case of LLDP, by the way? Anyone? What does
It
LLDP
uses
help me do?
to detect the upstream or downstream devices.
Correct, yeah. So for me, it's very important for the LAN because I want to see how many people are connecting with this interface, right? So if I come here, um, I say that there is this switch. Now, a lot of people are going to connect their devices here. Some people connect their tablet, some people connect the access point, some people connect their phones, right? Everyone is connected on this interface, which is port 2. I say that everyone who has a capability of transmitting the LLDPs on this link, right? I'm able to detect them. So I have to enable LLDP on this one. So with the help of that, I can check their vendors as well. I can see who is actually connecting with me. So it sort of helps me with getting the vendor information for software inventory, device inventory, sorry. So once you click this, once you say that this is a LAN interface, and then you say that I don't want to touch the LLDP settings, I want to keep it as it is, it's going to help you with generating a device inventory out of it. So you at some point you're going to see that how many devices were actually connected to this particular port, right? And there are ways you can check their software inventory as well, and you can check their vulnerability as well. For example, at some point somebody comes and connects Windows XP here, right? FortiGate is going to tell you that Windows XP is an outdated OS. You might want to have a look on this, right? So that's how the LLDP is going to help you with the OS, and then also checking the vulnerability, right? That's the point. So I'm going to keep it receive LLDP. I want to use the same settings that are there for this VDOM, or you want to maybe override this to enable. Do you want to transmit? Does this FortiGate also wants to be detected by somebody else who is connected with this particular port too? I want to say yes, right? Do you want to make it act as DHCP server? For now, no, we're not touching that. We're going to keep it really simple for now. Device detection, do you want to detect the devices? Again, it is very dependent on the LLDP. I want to detect how many devices are connected with this interface, right? Security mode, do you want to sort of put a security on this port so that anyone who tries to connect with this interface has to basically pass through a lot of things? For example, the captive portal, which is nothing but an authentication portal, right? I will close it for now. I don't need it, right? Outbound shaping profile is not needed for now, so stats is enabled. I'll click on OK. Now this is the configuration of this port 2, right? Now let me come back to the switch. The FortiGate part is done, right? So we're done with the DNS configuration, we're done with the static configuration, and we're also done with the
DSP.
interface configuration, right? Now let me come here and I will check what is actually going on the switch. I do show IND stats, show IND stats. If I want to check what is connected on, okay, there is no configuration over here. So it's very, you could see that Ethernet 0/0, 0/1, they both seem to be connected and they're actually part of the VLAN 1, right? Now, do I have anything over here as well? If I do show run, nothing else. So I'm okay with switch. I don't want to touch the switch, don't want to put any configuration or create a different VLAN on the switch for now because we want to test the basic functionality. Now let me come back to the Linux now. This is sort of acting as a PC. It's a guy, someone in the office who is trying to connect to the internet for the very first time. So what I'm gonna do here is I'll come back to here, go to the net manager. I'll just try to configure this manually. We're going to take the DHCP part as well because that's how you do it in the offices. So I'll come to the properties. I'll change the IP configuration for as per the gateway. So the configuration is 192.168.10 dot keep it 2, and this has to be 192.168.10 dot uh it was 1. We click on OK. Oh, I might need to disconnect it and then go to the properties. 10.1, OK, and then I will connect this again. Interfaces, it was 10.1, and here it is 10.2. Let me just check if I'm able to ping the gateway for now. 192.168.10.1. It works, right? Now let's check what is happening with the internet. So this guy is also trying to access internet. If I come here and then say I want to access Facebook, I'll open the browser here. I will say facebook.com. It keeps on loading and it's not going to load for the reason that there is no policy configured on the firewall, right? If I come back to the firewall now, if I go to policy and objects, firewall policy, there is no policy except one, which is called as implicit. It says that my name is implicit deny, right? My name is implicit deny. My ID is 0. By the way, ID for a policy is the identifier for it. And it's the identifier which is actually going to help this particular operating system of this FortiGate to map the traffic with, right? It's an attribute that's associated with this particular access control policy, access control list, right? With the help of which it's actually matching the traffic. Now it says any source, any destination, scheduled for always, all services, which means all the ports, the action is set to deny. It means everything wants to go, everything, it's not allowed, right? So to let it go to the internet traffic, let me check if I'm able to see the logs, by the way. I should be, but yeah, could be a VM thing that we might not be able to see that. Should I get something from 40 waiver destinations? sessions, no sources, no destinations, destinations. All right. Uh, I could show you it a different way as well. Let's do that. So you guys are going to remember this command. It's a debug flow, not a very complicated concept. People usually do it at the end of the course, but yeah, it's not too late to do this. So I'm going to run some debug flow on this command. And debug flow means that I want to see what's actually happening with the packets, right? So I'm gonna do diag debug flow filter addr. The IP address, addr basically means the address. The IP address for my source is 192.168.10.2, and then I do diag debug flow trace start 25. This command basically means that I want to trace 25 packets. You can keep it any number that you actually want. The next one is diag debug flow show function name enable. It means that which of the functions are being applied on the ports or on the packets. I want to check them, right? And then the last one is diag debug enable, right? I want to see what's happening with this, right? I could see a lot of stuff happening over here, right? Now in the meantime, I'll come back here. I'll just try to reload this, right? It's just trying to do something here. It's still loading, right? It says that the site cannot be reached. Now if I come back here and check the traffic, I'm going to pick up one. I could see that it's also trying to make a DNS lookup. So if you check the first trace over here, right? Focus on my cursor. What I'm seeing is there's a packet which has a trace ID of 17, right? It's coming from vdom root. What is vdom root? We're going to see that. It received a packet, proto1, proto 17, right? Which is a UDP packet, right? Because the protocol number for the UDP is 17, right? Someone who has this IP address of 192.168.10.2, it came from the source port. It was trying to reach out to 1.1.1.1, which is the DNS. It was trying to make possibly a DNS lookup for facebook.com to make sure that it's able to resolve it first, and then it can sort of do the TCP handshake with it, right? So it's trying to make it on port 53, and then it's also allocating a new session. It's able to find a route. Does it have a route? It does have a route, right? It has a route 192.168.85.2 via port 1, right? And then it's sort of trying to do a policy lookup, and the moment it comes here, it says that denied by forward policy, and the policy that it's actually hitting is policy 0, right? And that this is the whole point, that why it's not being able to make it to the internet, right? So I'd need to create a policy over here now. I'll come here, create new. I'll name it out internet, right? Incoming interface for me is, what's the incoming interface here? Anyone?
Port 2.
Port 2 now. So port 2 is the incoming interface. Again, you have to imagine yourself within the box, right? What is the outgoing interface?
Port 1.
Port 1.
Port 1. What's the source? There is one object that we created for the source, right? Port 2 address 192.168.10.0/24 is the subnet that my PC on the source end falls in. Destination, I'm gonna keep it all, right? Services, I'm gonna keep it all. There's a reason why we keep it all. I'll tell you this in our later sessions. I want to NAT it. Reason why I do want to NAT it, because the source actually comes with the IP, which is a private one, right? I want to make sure that it actually gets translated into the one which is routable on the internet. So I'm going to NAT it, right? I don't want to touch the security profiles for now, right? I want to enable this policy again. It's a very basic flow. We're going to see firewall policies in very detail. How this policy actually works. What happens first? When is UTM inspection done? We're going to see that. I'll click on OK. Now let me check. If I come back here now, I'll try to refresh this.